Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Let me say that the BIU has called this press conference this afternoon just to clarify issues that have happened between last week Thursday and Friday. And the reason why I'm saying last week Thursday and last week Friday, there was a joint press statement made last week Friday between the Bermuda government, the government negotiating team, and the Trade Union Congress as a result of the MOU that was signed on behalf of the unions and the associations. And as a result of that, it has caused some concern from some of the BIU membership, and I would say even though from some, I understand it's a minority. There would appear to be on Friday morning some of our members from a couple of divisions showed up at BBC to say that they were concerned that something that was said on the news night before last, on the Thursday night, that it was supposed to come back to them first before we was going to move this process forward. And whether or not there was a misunderstanding, and I'll say that to our members who felt that they need to go to the media, I'll say this to them respectfully. If there was a misunderstanding, the Constitution is here for everybody. If they had some concerns about something that the General President said, or the General Secretary said, or an organizer, they could have came to the BIU to seek whatever clarification they needed to seek, right? Let's just be clear about how the BIU works. I don't think it works different than any other union or any other organization around the world. If there's a membership meeting called for its members, those members to show up, provided there's a quorum according to the Constitution, those members sit there and make a decision on behalf of everybody. So if you decide that you're not going to come to the meeting, as long as the quorum is whatever the Constitution says, and the meeting was constitutional, we're not doing anything that was unconstitutional. The meeting that we had on July 2nd was a fully constitutional general membership meeting. There were some decisions taken, and as a result of that, if members thought that certain things was going to take place before the agreement with the government was going to go forward, that certainly needed to be clarified on that day. But allow me to clarify something that happened particularly on Friday, and I noticed that, and this is for the media, meaning the BBC, and I'm not sure who else carried it, but I made it crystal clear to my executive secretary on Friday that I want to have a meeting this morning, or this afternoon at 1 p.m., with our negotiating team first, and then a press conference at 2 o'clock. But apparently, the meeting with my team, the government negotiating team, weren't reported in the newscast. All was reported was that Mr. Ferber was going to have a press conference to clarify whatever issues took place on Friday. All I'm going to say to members of the media, I have a printed statement that Ms. Ferber sent out at 3:55 on Friday, and next time when you're going to report, please report the whole statement that we sent out and not part of it. Because this became very concerning for the BIU executive board this morning, because all they heard was that I was going to have a meeting or have a press conference at 1 o'clock, and I really going to be talking to the government team first. What you see behind me today is the government negotiating team. All of these members that are with me today was with me when we were having the joint talks with the TUC. So every step of the way, every decision that was made, they were a part of. Even when I was on vacation, right? Whether it was Brother Sumner, or Brother Glenn, or Brother Graham Nisbet, who was filling in or what have you, the BIU's negotiating team has always been intact from day one. So if there was a misunderstanding about what the membership thought was going to happen after that membership meeting on July 2nd, I think I made it crystal clear to the membership. Because whilst we said we were coming up with this agreement where the government needed to make savings, and let's just be clear, why did the two unions come together and work with the government? It was about for the support of country as to the reason why we made that decision. It wasn't because it was PLP, OBA, or whatever it is. We recognized that the government was asking us for assistance. So based on that, the TUC came together as one and had one set of negotiations with the government. Why? Because what the government is saying is that we need to make savings, and we put together a package that came up with savings. The government was asking for more savings. And let's just be clear about that. The government was looking for about 15% savings. That's what they were looking for. So what was the TUC's position? The TUC's position is that, if our members are going to give up anything, then whilst we may be able to sell a 5% to them, but we certainly can't go and sell 15% to them. So we packaged it in such a way where we put together, I think we talked about the early retirement. We talked about, this economic committee. We talked about the wage freeze from 2011 to 2015, and we talked about giving up these 1 day a month for 12 months, which works out to be about a 5% deduction in salary. So we've done that to soften the impact on going back to our members and presenting it to our membership. The government team also want to have a conversation about sick leave. The government team also wants to have a conversation about overtime. And we told them there's no way we can go back to our membership, talk about overtime, as well as a wage freeze, as well as giving up 5%, because members can see that as a double-barrel whammy. We're going to leave something on the table that allows our members to allow to get something and maybe, patch up the 5% that they're going to lose in salary. So leaving the overtime caveat there was something that we thought we could sell. So whilst we do understand the need for our members to have dialogue, all I would say in going forward is that if you have a question or concern, going to the media is not the correct thing to do. Go to your division, get your divisional officer to set a meeting up with the general president so they can outline their concerns. So whilst we do understand that people do have freedom of speech, they do have all those sort of things, not trying to take that away from them, but all I think I have to remind people is that we have a constitution that we're guided by, just like the president is guided by the constitution, so is the rest of the membership. They're not, they're not just, free to say whatever they like to the media, because, the Constitution must also be carried out by all members, which includes the General President and everybody else. With that, I'll entertain any questions you might have.
First of all, let me just make one comment, and since you used the term crystal clear, let me make this crystal clear.
Yeah.
If your document went out at 3:55,
yes,
the PSB couldn't use because we went on the air. But on Saturday, I personally wrote the newscast that mentioned, and I did it, I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing. I mentioned that you were having a meeting with your negotiating committee, followed by a press conference.
Okay.
That was Saturday.
Okay.
I cannot say what happened Friday because we weren't on the air.
Okay.
Secondly, I'm confused as to why you're calling this press conference, because as I understood it, from your meeting with the Premier and everybody, there seemed to be, for the first time in my view, a vast amount of unanimity.
That's right.
And I'm just wondering, if you have an internal matter with your people not being able to be quiet, why are we?
Okay. Good point. Well, because the story was carried on the news on Friday, it was carried on BBC, that's correct. But even though it was carried on BBC News, Mr. Vail, I want to be fair to all media to give you the opportunity to ask whatever question you want about what you think may have happened or may not have happened or whatever. But I don't want anybody to feel offended that, and I take your point, that, whilst there might be a small percentage of, members that might be concerned about what took place or whatever have you, I just want to, like I said, make this point crystal clear that the BIU as a democratic organization followed that process on July 2nd, that we had a vote that was properly constituted. 316 members voted for the motion, 20 members voted against it, and 2 members abstained. So that will give you some idea as to what the vote was that took place when the BIU had its meeting on July 2nd.
Mr. Phillips, have you had any opportunity to examine the SAGE Commission's interim report?
I haven't. I just got a copy handed to me this morning. I had my executive board meeting this morning at 8:30. It finished about 12 o'clock. I just got a chance to get something to eat, and I had a meeting with the government team this afternoon. I haven't really had a chance to take a look at the report yet. I haven't. Is it something that you want to ask me about?
Well, I'll give you a chance to look at it then.
No. Why don't you ask me, if you have a question that you think is in it that might be of concern to me, you might want to ask me that now, because I think I'm well versed to be able to give you an answer to it. I can tell you that. Definitely. You want to leave it?
I do have it on.
Some people feel it's been spoken publicly on BSB radio, talk show, and other places, social media, that the TUC should have waited for responses from the
SAGE Commission? The banks?
Telco, Belco, and those people before
accepting
the conditions. What do you think?
Well, let me just say, and that question was asked at our meeting on July 2nd, and I think what we said to the membership then is that first of all, the letters are going to go out to the banks, they're going to go out to BIU, but there's no guarantee that the banks are going to say yes, there's no guarantee that BIU is going to say yes. Once those letters go out, the TUC will do what it can to try to support the letter that's been sent by the Bermuda government, but there was no guarantee given that, if they don't do this, then we can't do that. Because the challenge that we saw as a TUC was that, what we looked at is what the government's proposal was possibly a 15% reduction in salary, right? So, and I think we looked at it like this. If you were going to lose, I think we used a number of, let's say 15% was going to cost you to lose $600 in your monthly salary. We looked at 5%, you're losing $200 of your salary. So from our point of view, $200 is a lot better than losing $600 in your salary. So we looked at it from that perspective, and based on that, the issue of putting any sort of guarantee on the table, we could not guarantee that the banks were going to do something to the mortgage rates. We couldn't guarantee that BIU was going to lower everybody's electricity bill. All we had was an undertaking that the government was going to send those letters, and we were going to do what we can to try to get those organizations or those comments to assist, recognizing that we are truly supposed to be all in this together.
One thing, speaking of the SAGE Commission, one thing that they said that they have recommended is that people retire at 65. And if you can recall, that was one of the questions that I asked Ms. Holbein at the press conference about the retirement age, and she said that it was not policy, it was in the Superannuation Act,
right,
that people could stay beyond 65.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that the SAGE Commission is saying needs to be finished right away. They need to make people retire at 65, when I know that there are people that have been asked and put the retirement age to be extended
to 70.
To 70.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say this to you, that I think this whole question of whether, and if the SAGE Commission is recommending that people go home at 65, hopefully they put an explanation in there as to why they think they should go home at 65. If they believe that it's going to be a savings for the government, what they should recommend to the government is that if people are going to stay on to 70, then maybe certain conditions should not happen. Whether or not we talk about insurance, whether or not we talk about certain other things, but people are living longer, and because they're living longer, people want to stay working longer. And you don't know what commitments people have. And whilst I do believe that people that one day they should retire, I believe that people should be able to stay on the job to 70. Should they stay past 70? I think at 70, you should be able to go home. But I certainly believe that the retirement age should be extended on a year-by-year basis to age 70, without knowing what the SAGE Commission is saying about it, because they need to should have some documentation that supports why they're saying that their recommendation should be upheld by the government.
Quick question.
Sure.
Would it not have been better for you to wait for the SAGE Commission's final report before these negotiations were final?
Well, I don't see what the SAGE Commission reports has to do with our negotiations. The reason why I say that to you is that my understanding is that the SAGE Commission are going to make recommendations to the government, and it's up to the government to make sure that those recommendations are either going to be carried out. But certainly, and I think I heard the Premier say this on Thursday, that whatever recommendations the SAGE Commission comes up with, they're going to sit down and have dialogue with the social partners. One of those social partners is the trade unions. So I'm thinking that if the SAGE Commission comes along and says A, B, C, or D about the workforce, then they're going to sit down and talk to the TUC about the process moving forward. So I don't see us as having the cart before the horse. I think that is correct. That they had meetings with the TUC, and now the TUCs came up with some savings for the government, whilst it may not be all the savings the government was looking for. We'll put some real savings on the table for the government, and you simply can't turn a blind eye to that. So I don't think it's premature. I think that it's right where it needs to be.
One of the things they're saying is the hiring freeze. There's like 548 vacant posts right now, and the commission is advising that they not be filled. That's likely to put pressure on some of your members. Do you have any reaction to that?
Well, all I would say to that is that if there's vacancies have been there for the last week, last month, or the last 6 months, it's quite obvious that the government has decided to leave those positions vacant for a period of time. If you look at the agreement that we have on early retirement, one of the things we've put in the early retirement clause is that, there's about 470 people that are eligible to retire between the age of 60 and 64. What we have said is that, those positions, if let's say 50 people decide to retire, in that provision says that, if that position is not needed, then those positions could be vacant for the next 2 years. But if somebody's saying that I can't do without that position has to be filled, let's just say somebody moves up from another position. Maybe it's the position below them that's not filled. But the whole thing is about savings in this time of the government coming to the unions for these concessions. It's all about us putting these kind of savings on the table. So I don't see how, if you had these 500 positions vacant right now, I don't see why the ABA government would be rushing out there, or the unions would be rushing out to say, well, you need to fill all these positions. I don't see that happening. I really don't.
Well, Chris,
Yeah.
referring roughly to the Sage Commission and that interim report, how difficult to get a consensus from the membership to give up things when government is vastly running inefficiently? And from the management level up, it's hard for a regular worker to see any sacrifices being made on that side of the table.
Well, Mr. Lundy, let me cover that for you like this. I think that, our MOU kind of like speaks to this non-compliance of the MOU, where we're asked for, this whole question of the government spending, that they do what they can to try to curb the wasteful spending, whether it's, because they continue to hire consultants, or whether or not, they continue to take these extra trips or whatever have you. The similar things they accuse the PLP government of doing, of hiring consultants, taking these extra trips or whatever. But one thing I would say to you about the Sage Commission that really concerns the BIU is that they have not talked to the people they really need to talk to. And I'll say that to you respectfully. And that's the rank and file members of the BIU, or some of the rank and file members of the BPSU. Because we've told our members that if they come and have a conversation, whether it's at the postal level, whether it's at Washington level, down the government quarry, then you need to tell them exactly what your management team has been doing for the past year or for the past 5 years. Because, when the final report is written for the government, we want to make sure that they have spoken to all the stakeholders. And my understanding to date, up until July 29, 2013, the Sage Commission has not spoken to the rank and file membership of the BIU, which is a serious indictment against that interim report that they have here.
I mean, with the Sage report, interim report, recognizes that government is top-heavy management-wise.
Yeah.
How does the rank and file feel? Really, to really garner the feeling from them, we're giving it up. We're carrying it back of the savings.
Well, I think if you look at it from this perspective, whilst the union doesn't advocate for, whether it's managers or just anybody, even the rank and file membership, to be made redundant. You look at those positions, if you think you have too much managers, then maybe through attrition you look at not replacing this position. Certainly it's no secret, the BIU has been out there on the front line for the better part of 40 years, talking about how top-heavy management is, and just a lot of departments, not just government, but talking about other companies that we negotiate, the private companies that we negotiate with, because we see exactly what our wages are, we see the management's wages, or we see the overall cost for the management's wages, and we say, well, if you got 100 staff, 90 of your staff are costing this, the other 10 are costing that, and sometimes you might have 3 or 4 managers or 1 manager to 5 people. Why would you need to have 1 manager to 5 people when you could probably have 1 to maybe 10 or 1 to 15. So that's why I think the top-heavy side of, whilst we do understand the Sage Commission is out there examining the government and whether or not they are top-heavy, and they could be, I don't know. But certainly I think that, this whole question of how that needs to be managed is right now in the hands of the ABA. So if one of the recommendations come from the Sage Commission is that you are management top-heavy, then the government is going to have to address that.
It seems to me that your agreement is or rather before the election, there was talk about
Yeah.
the PLP promoting growth over austerity.
Yes.
We call that phrase. And the OBA was going to come in and cut everything. What we're hearing now is that you and your membership and Trade Union Congress has agreed to an austerity program that's going to basically take $42 million out of the economy. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, but how do you figure we're going to take $42 million out of the economy?
Well, the pay cuts, from what I
No,
heard.
no, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. We're actually leaving $42 million in the economy because we're leaving it with the government. I think, no, no, trust me, you better come a little better than that.
Spending power of your members.
No, okay, you want, yeah, but I think if,
Government's economy, yes, the government itself, they're not spending that money.
yeah, but
Members aren't.
yeah, but you can't just look at it in that vacuum. If you look at, and I did have a chance to look at page 3 or 5 of the SAGE Committee report, and they looked at the consolidated debt deficit of the government over the last 3 years, and it's like $809 million. We know that the deficit for 2013-14 is $331 million. So the government can't continue to run these deficits. So at some point in time, you know, whether or not the TUC helps out with $40 million or whatever it is, and then the government's going to have to, as the Premier said, it's going to have to find cost savings somewhere else. So at some point in time, money's going to come out of the economy, right? But certainly, I think what we looked at, and let's take the point that you raised, if we would accept the government's proposal of a 15% pay cut, then the members have now got 15% less to spend as opposed to 5% less to spend. So we looked at the 5% as being a better case scenario for our members than a 15%. And I think that we want to make this point crystal clear, because whilst we do understand that there are other avenues that the government could have taken to get their savings, and people may talk about redundancies. But I think from our point of view, the agreement also lays out another part of the agreement, talks about layoffs. So the government could have achieved what they wanted to achieve just by saying to the public, just know that what we've said to the Bermuda Trade Union Congress is that we're going to cut a half a day, we're going to take a half a day from everybody. And a half a day from everybody, and we want all the members to manage that half a day going from everybody. That's $40 million savings for the government, $40 million. Because if government's overall payroll is $400 million, if you took a half a day from everybody, that's 10%. That's $40 million right there. And if they're taking a whole day from everybody, then that's $80 million. Now, can the government physically run all the departments, have everybody on a 4-day work week? It would have been extremely challenging, and I think the 4.5-day approach would have probably been the more likely approach that the unions would have probably recommended, because in the end, if we would have had to not got our memberships to agree to the 5%, and the government would have came back and said, well, we're going to have some redundancies. The BIU, and I can't speak on behalf of the TUC, but I can certainly speak on behalf of the BIU. Before one of our members would have been made redundant, we'd have a conversation with the government about saving every job that we have in the government. I can tell you that. And by saying that, we would have talked about a layoff first, which meant everybody has maybe a 4.5-day work week first, so everybody's got a 4.5-day paycheck, as opposed to having no paycheck at all. Because in this current economic climate, we want to make sure people are gainfully employed. Why? Because, and I think the OBA started to listen, because whilst the Minister of Finance was talking about, or where the private sector was screaming out that you need to cut the size of government. If you look at who spends money in the economy, you just made the point. If you made 100 people redundant or 200 people redundant, what's going to happen? There's 200 people less that you have to support the economy. 200 people less. All right, cool. So I think that recognizing that we've made this collective approach, it's now time for the country to answer, because I think the government now has a mandate from the TUC to work with some things. So I'm hoping that the banks, as well as Belco and the insurance company, are now going to come to the plate, because I noticed, and everybody else I guess noticed it, 3 weeks ago when August made its, or 4 weeks ago, it might have been a month ago, when August was on the front page of the Gazette, we made $12.5 million. Why? It's now time for us to sit down and have a conversation about how you're going to assist with, whether it's over the next 12 months and the next 18 months, while we're working through this process. Everyone has to play their part. Every company has to play their part. Mr. Webb, you want a final question?
Yeah, if I could just bring back some relevance to what we're here.
Sure.
I interviewed the Premier on Friday,
That's right.
who commented favorably on the performance of the TUC.
Mm-hmm.
The press conference I attended with yourself and your 5 other union and associate members, I must confess it's the first time I've ever seen you smile so broadly. I would like to hear from you. I'm not concerned with the Sage Commission. You haven't read the report.
That's right.
I would like to be able to tell my viewers
Yes.
that the expressions by yourself at that meeting
Yeah.
and the praise for the unions given by the Premier on Friday
Yeah.
are worthwhile.
Okay.
Because, you know, the you fellas
Well, stay.
are in harmony.
You stay right there, Mr. Webb. You're good. You're okay there. You can stay right there. That's my advice to you. Stay right there.
Stay right there.
Right where you are.
Don't move.
Don't move.
In a good position.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, unfortunately, we still have to I guess, make sure, because as you heard Ms. Ferber say, there are people who are up on the blogs who are saying certain things about what the TUC should have done and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's good that we're heard to clarify some issues, because, you know, maybe, you know, hopefully, whether or not people will agree, or whether or not they'll just go back and still have the same opinion. But certainly it should give them a new foreign perspective on certain things that relates to, you know, what has taken place and the reason why it has taken place. I think that the overall decision was, you know, people have thought we probably could have waited. What's the right time to do anything? That's the $64,000 question, I guess. I think that the TUC made the right decision. We all went back to our individual memberships, and every membership ratified the proposal that's on the table. So I take your point.
I think it's, getting to Mr.
Webb.
Webb's point, I think that a statement that was made by Ms. Hall Bean, even though she said that, what she said at the beginning, that negotiations can be, what's the word?
Less adversarial.
Adversarial. But, you know, in this case, it was not. And she further clarified, because I did ask her about that, beyond that she said that the negotiations that she has had with the BIU and the other unions has always been, you know, it's never been adversarial. But I think some people got the impression that negotiations between the BIU in particular and the government have been adversarial. But Ms. Hall being cleared that up to say that that has not been the case. She's always had a very amicable and pleasant working relationship with the BIU.
Thank you.